Welcome to Zohar Class number 2 on the Preliminaries of the Zohar. Let's go ahead and bring value to this world by bringing the light of the Zohar. So we are still in the Preliminaries of the Zohar, and we know that the Zohar is a knowledge that is not of this world. This is a knowledge that comes from beyond this world and involves the intervention of beings who are not from this world, who come to share this information with us. We find a wealth of information scattered like a mixture of topics in the preliminaries. It's like jumping from one topic to another and then yet another. Many subjects are interwoven, but all these topics provide a foundation of definitions for when we begin to interpret parasha by parasha. We are still not in Bereshit or at Bereshit, which is Genesis, the beginning. We are far from entering Bereshit. I think we're going to do 3 more classes before we can get into Bereshit. But what I can tell you is that if I succeed in transmitting to you what I'm studying in the Zohar, it is a delight, I believe, that cannot be surpassed in this world or any other. It is a delight that comes from the revelations of the secrets of the Torah. I at least find it incredibly enjoyable. This is already the second class in the preliminaries. The Zohar is a collection of parchments, and we are decoding them one by one. It is a gigantic task, an enormous effort. The last thing that we discussed was that meditation can create events. The Zohar says the following: with Ma, written with Mem and Hey in Hebrew, which has a numerical value of 45, Mem is worth 40 and Hey is worth 5. This is the same value as the word Adam, which means human or human being or the first man, which is also 45. And Ma is part of the word Chokhmah. Chokhmah is the wisdom of the upper world. Chokhmah is Choachma, the power of Ma, the force of 45, the force of Adam, which is the force of meditation. So it says that with Ma, the letters Mem and Hey, Ma is the world below, and it manifests through the Hebrew letters. What does this mean? It means that the world below is a creation born from a thought in the world above. There are people in this world who are able to concentrate on a balloon or a ball so intensely that it physically materializes. In other words, thought can create matter. But for thought to transform into matter, a connector is needed, a link, like the cable between the video player and the TV, the television. That connector is the Hebrew letters. So it says that Ma, the lower world, manifests through the Hebrew letters. And what are the Hebrew letters? There are 22 letters which divide into 12 signs of the zodiac, 7 planets, and 3 elements called the mother letters, called Amish, Aleph, Mem, Shin. Aleph is air, Mem is water, and Shin is fire. So 7 plus 12 plus 3 equals 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet. This is the link that allows thought to materialize into matter. Here the Zohar tells us things that the Torah does not. And you can ask the question, why does the Zohar reveal things that the Torah does not? Well, first, because the Torah, although it appears to be a narrative, it is not. Although it seems like a series of stories, and they are not. The Torah is actually a code, a prophetic code that transcends time. It can prophesy what will happen in 10 years, in 1 year, or what has already happened. including the names and surnames of those involved. Everything's encoded in the secret of the Torah. The righteous sages, or the Tzaddikim, explain that the Torah is a succession of names of God, a succession of divine forces. So while the Torah may appear to be a narrative, it does not explain anything outright. This is the truth. It is an extraordinary code. And it is beneficial for us to hear the Torah readings on Shabbat, on Mondays and Thursdays. Even though we don't understand these codes on a rational level, our soul deciphers them like a barcode reader. Our soul understands the code or the codes, even if our physical, rational self does not. The Zohar, although it is a sum of codes and names of God, comes to explain things based on narratives from the Torah. It begins to explain things in great depth, and here it explains that 2,000 years before the creation of the world, the Hebrew letters were hidden and perfected. But our Creator contemplated them and took delight in them like a delicious dish. Who can understand something like this? How can the Hebrew letters be a delicious dish for God? It's not so easy to give God a delicious meal, but the Hebrew letters were that dish. The Hebrew letters are the souls of the planets and stars, which are souls of great intelligence. These souls are not like ours. They have a body. The body of the planet or star envelops their soul, just as our body envelops our soul. Our soul is a combination of virtues and defects because we are like a combination safe. And what's in the safe, and in our case, in the safe, which is our soul, there are virtues and defects. Planets and stars also have virtues. However, it just so happens that stars and planets only have virtues. Those virtues can appear as defects if we perceive them incorrectly. Let me go ahead and explain. Imagine a ray of light, a ray of sunlight. A ray of sunlight on a candle will melt the wax, right? But however, that same ray of sunlight on an egg will harden it. So everything depends on what I place under the sunlight, but the sunlight itself remains a ray of sunlight, either way. 2,000 years before the creation of the world, the Hebrew letters were hidden. God contemplated them and delighted in them. What does it mean that they were hidden? This means that they didn't have bodies. They were naked souls. They were a bodiless soul. The sun didn't exist. The planets didn't exist. The moon didn't exist. The earth didn't exist, of course. The stars didn't exist. The world didn't exist. This is talking about 2,000 years before the creation of the world. The world as we know it did not exist, only the souls. The souls of what would later become the stars and the planets. And those stars and planets already had a connection with God. Those souls transformed into hieroglyphics for us, which are the Hebrew letters, which our soul interprets and codes to connect with the souls of the stars and the planets. That is, the Hebrew letters are our cable of connection to the souls of the stars and the planets. So the Hebrew letters are not just a regular alphabet. They are a code that elevates our consciousness to connect with the souls of the stars and the planets. When God decided to create the physical world, the Zohar says, the Hebrew letters presented themselves to God in reverse order. So let me tell you that if our alphabet begins with Aleph and ends with Tav, the letters presented themselves in reverse order from Tav to Aleph. Now the question is, how can a human being know these things? How can a human being know that what happened 2,000 years before the creation of the world? How could Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, the author of the Zohar, know this? There is no other explanation except that an intelligence from beyond earth came to reveal it. This tells us something very important. There are intelligence from beyond earth that intervene here in this world. And where do these intelligences come from? Certainly not from any physical world. You might ask why, and that's because this is speaking of events 2,000 years before the physical world existed. Therefore, they come from parallel dimensions where there is no physical world. Let's not talk about extraterrestrials. Let's talk about beings from another dimension. Not from the physical world, not from known planets, but from parallel dimensions. These beings come to teach humanity. They come to teach sages like Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai on how the world was created. Then comes the prophet Elijah, who adds more knowledge, and then Moses, who also adds knowledge. But Elijah the prophet and Moses died many years ago. We are talking about events from over 3,000 years ago. Yet they appeared in Rabbi Shimon's cave and began to tell him things that no human being could know. This is why I'm enjoying this so much, because I don't need to watch any science fiction movie. It is all right here, naturally. But you need to understand one thing. In what circumstances do we see our image reverse? So where do we see our image reverse? That's the question. You could say that mainly in the mirror, correct? Our image is reversed. But things are also reversed in a photo, in its negative. Its negative is reversed. The question is, are we the negative or are we the positive? Our alphabet goes from Aleph to Tav. The Hebrew alphabet goes from Aleph to Tav. But how do the letters present themselves to God? They present themselves to God from the Tav to the Aleph. So what are we? Are we the reflection? And is the reflection upright or reversed? Then what are we? The reversed reflection? My goodness, what have we just discovered? We discovered that we are reversed beings. Everything we see is reversed. Everything we know is reversed. And everything about how we act is reversed. That's why things are the way they are. The letters present themselves to God in reverse order from how we normally read them. Moreover, there's a key to the Torah. The Torah begins with the letter Bet and ends with the letter Lamed. Why does it begin with Bet and end with Lamed? 346 letter characters later. Because together they form the word Lev, which means heart. But the thing is, it doesn't begin with Bet. Lev does not begin with Bet and end with Lamed to form Lev, the heart. As we would read it, it's not about reading it forward. You have to read it from the last letter to the first letter. That means that to understand the heart, you have to read it backwards. And in the word Bereshit, let me give you a little preview of something I will explain much later. within the word Bereshit lies a deeper meaning. Do you know what the word Bereshit is? As we said, it is the first word of the Torah. It is mistranslated as in the beginning. But Bereshit is made up of two words, Shabbat, Re'i. In Hebrew, Re'i means mirror, the mirror of Shabbat. So beware, the word mirror is already embedded in the first word of the Torah. This means we already have a code. If the world was created with Bereshit, and within Bereshit is the word mirror, so then it is clear we are a mirror image. The letters present themselves to God starting with the last letter of the alphabet. And that last letter of the alphabet is the Tav. So the Tav presents itself and says to God, create the world with me, with my intelligence, because I am part of the word emet, which means truth. But God responds, no, I would not create the world with you because your letter is also part of the word mavet, which means death. I will not create the world with death. And so the letter Tav departs. So this is what the Zohar says, that the letters are presenting themselves in reverse order. And all the letters are going to present themselves to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and they are going to state why he should create the world with them. So then the dialogue between the letters and God reveals that these letters have an intelligence. The Zohar tells us how this conversation unfolds. So the next letters that appear are the Kuf, the Resh, and the Shin. They present themselves, each of them saying, please create the world with my intelligence. But God replies, I will not do this because together the letters Kuf, Resh, and Shin form the word Sheker, which means falsehood. I will not create the world with lies. And so the letters Kuf, Resh, and Shin, they leave. Then the letter Zadi presents itself. So we are going through the letters from last to first, as I stated. The Zadi says to God, create the world with my intelligence, because I am the initial of the word Zadik, which means righteous. But God responds, no, I cannot create the world with you. God explains, it is true that you are the initial of the word Zadik, but you are formed by two letters, and that is the Nun and the Yud. The letter Zadi is written as a combination of the Nun and the Yud, which both letters incline themselves towards each other. These two letters represent conflicting ideas. The Yud symbolizes meditation and the Sephirot of Chokhmah and the spiritual world, which functions upright correctly, while the Nun represents rationality. It is the fifth gate, the Sephirot of Bina. The rational functions inversely because it is a mirror image of the spiritual world. In this world, we cannot mix what is upright with what is inverted. Therefore, there is a conflict here, and they do not understand each other. The letter Zadi departs. Notice how God enjoys this dialogue with the letters. It is clear that one is in the upright world and the other is in the inverted world. The intellect operates with the five senses, while meditation does not rely on the senses but on the soul, which has extraordinary perception. Next, the letter Pei presents itself. The letter Pei means mouth and says to God, create the world with me. But God responds, no, you are the initial of the word Pesha, which means sin. And so the letter Pei leaves. Then the Ayin presents itself and says, create the world with me. But God replies, no, because you are the initial of the word Avon, which means iniquity or crime. And so the letter Ayin departs. Next, the letter Samech and the Nun represent themselves. The letter Samech says, I am the initial of the word Somech, which means support. I am the one who sustains. But God responds, I cannot use you because you are busy supporting the letter Nun, which means Nephilah, which translated means to fall. If you are holding somebody up, you cannot also be occupied with creating the world. And so the letters Samech and Nun, they leave. Then the letters Mem, Lamed, and Kaf present themselves, asking to create the world. But God says, no, because together you will form the word Melech, which means king. You are already busy creating the concept of kingship. Then the letters Yud, He, Vav present themselves. And God says, no, because you form my name, and this is my sacred name. You cannot take part in the world's creation. You already have a function. Next, the letter Tet comes up and says, listen, I am the first letter of the word Tov, which means good. Why don't you create the world with that which is good? But God replies, no, this will be for the world of the future when the Mashiach arrives. That moment has not yet come. So the Tet leaves. The letter Het and the Tet present themselves next to invite God to help them create the world. But God says no. No, because you formed the word Het, which means sin. In fact, you will notice that Het or Tet do not appear in the names of the 12 tribes of Israel, because the 12 tribes of Israel are without sin. They are the children of Jacob. Then the letter Zayin presents itself and says to God, listen, create the world with me. But God responds, no, because your shape is like a saber, a sword. The letter Zayin is written like this, with a point and a hilt resembling a weapon. God says, I do not want to create the world of war. Next, the letter Gimel and the Dalet present themselves. Gimel is the first letter of the word Gomelet, which means to give charity or to bestow kindness. But God says, I cannot use you because you are busy with the Dalet, which begins the word Dal, meaning poor. You must help give to those who do not have. If a rich person gives to a poor person, they cannot also be occupied with creating the world. So neither the Gimel nor Dalet are chosen. Finally, the letter Bet presents itself, and God says, with you, yes, with you I can create the world. The other letters are astonished, and they're like, what's going on? What does the Bet have that we don't have? The letter Bet replies, I am the first letter of the word Beracha, which means blessing. The other letters are unimpressed and say, and so what? But the letter Bet reveals, I have a secret. The letter Bet is truly wonderful. It is made of 2 horizontal bars and 1 vertical bar. The upper horizontal bar represents the spiritual world. The lower horizontal bar represents the material world. And they are united on the right side of Hesed, which is loving kindness. This makes Bet a letter that unites the 2 worlds through kindness and mercy. God tells the Bet, if you're going to unite the 2 worlds with Hesed, which is mercy, then yes, I will use you. And so the Torah begins with the letter Bet. But you may ask, what about the Aleph? The Aleph did not present itself. But Hakadosh Baruch Hu noticed that, and God asks the Aleph, "Why haven't you stepped forward?" The Aleph replies, "What is there left for me to do? You've already done it all." And then God responds, "Because of your humility, you will be the first letter of my name. My name is Ehyeh, Asher Ehyeh, which is I am that I am." And it begins with Aleph. Thus, Aleph is used to form the name of God, Ehyeh. This concludes the story of the Zohar about the letters that were a delight to God, to Hakadosh Baruch Hu. How is it possible for us to know this? How could a nation or a people have even the remotest idea of these profound truths? We are talking about events before the Big Bang. The physicists throughout history have been able to unravel what happened a few seconds after the Big Bang, but they cannot explain the Big Bang itself or what occurred before it. Perhaps in this class or the next, we will explore this further. The Torah begins with 4 words, and those are Bereshit bara Elohim et. Bereshit bara, these words begin with the letter Bet. Elohim et, these 2 words begin with the letter Aleph. So in the first 4 words of the Torah, we have Bet Bet, Aleph Aleph. Notice that it's not Aleph Aleph, Bet Bet. Why does it start with the Bet and end with the Aleph? Because nothing moves in the world above unless something moves in the world below. If you don't pull the rope on a bell, it won't ring. Similarly, by using the Hebrew letters here below, we can activate the celestial, stellar, and astral energies from above. The Hebrew alphabet is the key that activates the divine software, which is the astral intelligence. If we learn which letter corresponds to which star or planet, we can begin to use God's program to create events in this world. Let's talk about the cosmic computer. You know, everybody is happy when they receive a iPhone, a computer, some digital device that helps them, a digital 3D TV. But do you realize what God has given us? He has given us a cosmic computer with all the stars, the planets, and intelligences. He says, take it. But do the letters agree with this? Creation in the Torah. But when were the planets created in the Torah? On the 4th day. And when was man created? On the 6th day. It is known that what is created later encompasses what was created before. For example, if the mineral world was created before the vegetable world or the vegetative world, then the vegetative world would encompass the mineral world. If the animal world was created after the vegetative and mineral worlds, then the animal world is above both. Similarly, the planets created on the 4th day include all that came before, which is the mineral, vegetative, and animal worlds. We know that animals are ruled by their instincts. When the planets say to animals, you are in heat, they are in heat. And when the planet says, don't mate now, they stop mating, they stop being in heat. When they say, hibernate, animals hibernate. And when they say stop hibernating, they stop hibernating. The planets dictate to animals. But when was man created? Man was created on the 6th day. So therefore, he encompasses everything created before him, which are the aquatic world, which was created on the fifth day, the stars and the planets, the fourth day. This means the stars and planets were created before mankind. So man, therefore, encompasses all that was created before him. Therefore, the stars should obey us, and we should not be influenced by them. So what's this karma about, supposedly, that is given by these cosmic energies? Are the planets supposed to tell us what to do? No, I can get my keyboard of my cosmic computer and I can tell the planets what to do. I don't follow orders from them. I'm not going to follow the animal instincts. I'm going to follow my intelligence and wisdom. That's why the Torah begins with Bereshit bara Elohim et. Bet bet aleph aleph. I tap on the keyboard below and the forces above react. Very interesting. I'm now going to give you two keys. One of the interpretation of the word Bereshit is that if we split the two parts, we get bara, meaning create, and sheet, which means six in Aramaic. So Bereshit can mean create six. What is the six here? It refers to the four cardinal directions: north, south, east, west, above and below. The six dimensions of the three-dimensional world as we know it. But Bereshit also has a numerical value of 913, which is the same as the word Hitbonenut, which means meditation. But wait a minute. If Bereshit means create matter and also to meditate, it implies that through meditation, I can create matter. And what does the Zohar say? Due to the mystery of Chokhmah, which is wisdom, the world exists. What is Chokhmah? As I mentioned earlier, it is meditation. Thanks to the mystery of meditation, the world exists. Who created the world? Hakadosh Baruch Hu. So God meditates. He meditates, and when Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, they wanted to be like God. They wanted to meditate. They wanted to be creators. The Zohar states the world above is a place of creation, which contains just one lock. This lock has only one key, and that key is Bereshit. We've already seen that Bereshit means created six, and also Hitbonenut, which means meditation. This means that if you want to access the world above, there is one lock and one key, which is meditation. Abraham and meditation. The text then shifts to discuss Abraham, the father of the three monotheistic religions, which is Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai explains that when the world was created, it was said, Be'i Baram. But Rabbi Shimon corrects this, saying it should be read Be Abram, meaning in Abraham. This is because Abraham meditated and created, which allowed him to save himself from the 10 trials. The physical world obeyed him because of the ability to meditate. Abraham's name has the same numerical value as 248 as the angel Raziel, who is the angel of the secrets. This number also corresponds to the number of words in the Shema, the central prayer in Judaism. The word bara, which means create, is a permutation of the word eber, which is the root word for Hebrew. A Hebrew is someone who is from the other side. The other side of what? The Torah tells us the story about Abraham, that he came from the other side of the Euphrates River, where he left Ur of the Chaldeans to go to Canaan. But the secret behind that story is that he crossed from the physical world to the spiritual realms. He was someone who had the codes to access the world of truth and meditation. A Hebrew is not necessarily a Jew, rather, a Hebrew is someone who has the ability to transcend this physical world and connect with the spiritual reality through meditation and understanding. The secret of Bereshit. God says Bereshit is the key that encompasses everything. This is the secret hidden in the first word of the Torah, Bereshit. Bereshit is the key to the lock that opens or denies access to the six Sephirot. What is the Sephirot? The connection between the world above and the world below. The Mashiach and the celestial schools. The text of the Zohar then jumps to discuss the Mashiach. It says that the Mashiach visits all the celestial schools, universities in the spiritual realm. That's what those schools are. These schools are where the mysteries of the Torah are explained by the doctors of law, masters of secrets from a world that does not exist in our physical reality. There are universities in other planes of existence different to ours. Wouldn't you love to attend those classes? I would. But what is hell? We've all heard of the concept of hell, but what is hell? The Zohar states that hell is when someone desires to enter these celestial universities after their life on earth has ended, but they are excluded and must return to earth to work on themselves. The soul's suffering at being denied entry to the celestial school is equivalent to the pain of hell, not a physical fire, but a burning pain of longing and exclusion. The Mashiach, however, is a being who visits all these celestial universities and listens to the secrets of the Torah as they are taught in these higher realms. Rabbi Shimon explains, HaKadosh Baruch Hu listens to the voice of those who apply themselves to the study of Kabbalah. Many people ask for some kind of need to be fulfilled, but many times they are not listened to. It seems that their words are in vain or their prayers are in vain. However, those who study the Kabbalah can ask and they will be heard. The Zohar says that God listens to the voices of those who study Kabbalah. The Zohar also talks about those who dedicate themselves to justice. It says that justice is the secret of the esoteric doctrine. A righteous person is someone who teaches the Kabbalah. That is what the Zohar says. Let's talk about the renewal of the earth. The Zohar states that the earth is constantly renewing itself, because if it didn't, it would destroy itself. Who renews it? The renewal of the earth happens thanks to the words uttered by those who possess new concepts related to Kabbalah. Every time someone teaches something new about the mysteries of creation, a hidush, it produces the effect of the world regenerating itself. And kind of like an old skin being shed with a new layer underneath, kind of like a snake. God's words to Rabbi Shimon and the patriarchs. God says to Rabbi Shimon and the patriarchs, I have placed my words in your mouth, and I have shielded you with the shade of my hand for the purpose of establishing the heavens and the earth. What is meant by to bring down the mercy of the heavens down to earth? God's objective is to bring mercy from the world above to the world below. This is the role of the right pillar of the letter Bet. If the pillar were on the left, rigor and hardship would descend. but because it is on the right, mercy is brought down to us. The world above is a storehouse full of mercy, blessings, and abundance, love, health, wealth, well being, family, fertility, and more abundance than you could ever imagine. In contrast, this world is a world of scarcity, emptiness, and lacking. I have placed my words in your mouth, and I have shielded you with the shade of my hand for the purpose of establishing heavens and the earth in order to bring down the mercy of heavens down to earth. God's purpose is to open the storehouses of abundance in the world above and bring them down to this world, which is in crisis. So therefore, why is there scarcity and suffering? We ask. Why is there so much poverty, unhappiness, sickness, war, hunger? The answer is simple. We haven't used the key to open the lock. The storehouse of the abundance remains locked, and its blessing do not descend to us. What is the key? We have already mentioned it. It's meditation. Can we say that the world meditates? Do people wake up in the morning and meditate? Do children meditate at school? When people visit their neighbors, what do they talk about? Who knows? But they don't get together to meditate. We are using the wrong key. We are turning the wrong lock.